All right, we are beginning our self-portraits. This is a self-portrait by David Driscoll. It spent some time at the High Museum in Atlanta before moving to the Portland Museum of Art. When Driscoll was 5 years old, him and his family moved to North Carolina. He had a long relationship with the Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in Maine, which started in 1953. He was also invited back as a visiting professor in 1973 in Brunswick, Maine. Last but certainly not least, this is William H. Johnson. He was born in Florence, South Carolina in 1901 and died in 1970. So for our self-portraits today, we're going to get started with just the basics. Everybody has this piece of paper at your table showing you a very, very simplified version of something called the Loomis method. And then I did some drawings of some faces and hair for you that are also at your tables just for visual reference. So we are going to get started on our practice paper. And I just want to show you this Loomis method. So it starts with a circle, and then you add a bottom piece to that circle. The neck, don't forget to add the neck, a line for a shirt, and some shoulders. The shoulders will go off the edge of the page if you are drawing your head large enough. Also remember the hairline comes down from the top of the head, and our eyes are located kind of where the top of the ear is, given all of these features change depending on the person. The bottom of the ears touches somewhere along or near the bottom of the nose. And then the mouth is going to be located kind of halfway between the chin and the nose. My mouth there is a little bit too low. And then the eyes, the distance between the eyes is the size of the eye. So I'm going to get started here and just show you, I am freehanding a circle. I'm not worried if that circle is going to be perfect or not, because we're going to be erasing that circle. The circle is called a construction line. We use a lot of construction lines when we're practicing and sketching, so keep in mind that you're going to be erasing them and stay light on the pencil. I like to put on my ears first. And then I'm going to just draw some sketchy lines about where the eyes are going to go. I'm deciding with these construction lines where I am going to put the hairline, eyes, nose, mouth. So that top line is going to be my hairline, then my eyes, nose, and mouth. All right, I'm going to try to give you a lot of information in a short amount of time so that you have plenty of time in art today to practice. But I am going into the eyes, nose, and mouth tips and tricks on the back of my paper here. So parentheses. I just wrote the word hello and put it in parentheses. Those lines are what we call parentheses in a sentence. Some of you may know, some of you may not. But that's what I use for a very, very simplified nose if you don't know where to start. If you have a certain way that you like to draw it, go for it. But for those students that might feel a little lost, I always say do parentheses, do a little line in the middle, and that is your nose. And do a little bit of shading for the nostrils. Don't do like a full circle, do a half a circle. For the mouth, I always say use the letter M and spread the letter M out. So the nose can be different though. You might draw the nostrils wider, or you might draw them closer together and more narrow. You might use a pointy line for the middle part of the nose, or you might do a more round line. We are not looking up in the air, we're looking straight ahead. So we're gonna use a semicircle for the shading part. We don't wanna use a full circle. And then that nose, of course, kind of goes up into an eye. You can add a little line there or some shading. But basically to get started for the nose, you use parentheses, and for the mouth, think of the letter M, or you could think of mountains. And you're going to add 2 lines underneath that letter M. You can do these lines farther apart, or you could do them closer together. You could do them round. You could add some one-directional shading like I'm doing here to different parts of the mouth. Jazz it up as you like. Now I'm going to speed up the video again. I do want to point out here while the video is sped up that I'm erasing construction lines as I go. So construction lines help us know where to put things on the page, but we don't need them anymore, so they serve their purpose and we can erase them. Now I'm going on the back and slowing the video down to show you something about the eyes. Once you have an oval for the eye, you want to add one extra line at the top, and then when you add your pupil, make sure you do not do what I call a zombie eye, like just a little dot in the middle. You want to make sure that the pupil is a little bit larger than you would normally think it to be. So make sure you have an extra line at the top for the eyelid, and then you can add the pupil, which is going to be larger than you would think. So that's what I'm showing you here. And then I'm also showing you that you can do either individual hairs for the eyebrow, or you can draw in an entire shape for the eyebrow. The eyelashes, the reason that second line is important is because that's where the eyelashes come from. You don't want to have just a circle with lines coming out of the top like this with a little zombie eye. We don't want that. So add an extra line for the eyelid. That's where the eyelashes are going to come out from. All right, so you do not have to do your own hairstyle, although it is supposed to be a self-portrait. I decided to do some locks because why not? So I'm just drawing some, basically like 2 lines and then connecting them with a curved kind of C shape. And I'm not starting straight out of the top of the head. I'm coming down onto the forehead to start. And now I'm just filling that in with that C shape. And I slowed the video down here to kind of show you some little tips and tricks on the back. So if you have a certain way you want to do it, go for it. But if you're struggling, I usually tell students if it's a lock, a twist, or a dread to draw 2 lines. You can draw them straight or curved in the direction that they go. And then I'm quickly just drawing in some C shapes all the way down. And then for a braid, you draw 2 lines. I did some curved lines here, and now I'm drawing a zigzag line in the middle, but I'm not touching trying not to touch the 2 lines that I drew. So I draw a zigzag in the middle, and then I'm drawing a curved line to connect the zigzags. And that's what creates kind of the look of a braid. Of course, if you draw those 2 lines at the beginning closer together, you'll get more of a micro braid. And then if you draw those 2 lines farther apart, you'll get a thicker braid. But that is one kind of easy way to get started drawing a braid. So I did it here a little bit bigger so you can see 2 lines, zigzag, and then a bumpy line. So 2 lines, a zigzag line in the middle, and then a bumpy line will give you kind of the effect of a braid. And then when you add some shading and value, remember value is our element of art, fancy art word for shading, it'll look even more like a braid. All right, to color our self-portraits, of course, we have our multicultural markers and crayons, color pencils. I want to show you real quick the different, and then we have our Sharpies too. We have this one, which is called a fine point Sharpie, and then this one is called ultra fine. So those are great to outline with. I did want to give mine more of a cartoony kind of feel. So I started with the bigger Sharpie to outline. So if you want to add some details that are, not exactly accurate with a self-portrait, I don't have a nose ring or an eyebrow piercing, but I wanted to add it for fun because why not? And we can dream. So once you've added all of your fun details, we do want to start adding some value. So I'm moving over to the ultra fine Sharpie to add value. There are different ways of shading. you can shade with the form. What I'm doing here is an example of adding value with the form or shading with the form. So I'm going in the direction of the shape that I'm trying to create. So I'm trying to create a round shape, so I'm kind of doing like a round sketchy line to add value. So I want to show you real quick on a little post-it note here some of the shading techniques. A really quick mini lesson. This is called one-directional shading. So pen, pencil, color pencil, crayon, doesn't matter what you use. If you go in one direction, we call that one-directional shading. And then there's with the form shading. So that C shape that I was doing on the hair is called with the form shading. So we're going with the form. I'm showing you inside of a circle here. And then I'm going to draw another circle and show you in you can do the same thing, but just in one direction. So kind of decide how you want to do your shading and go with it. If you go with the form, stay going with the form. And then in other areas, if you want to do one directional shading, you can. I do suggest when you start the skin tone to notice what each material can do. For example, I'm showing you here with one color pencil, you can get a lot of different shades and tones depending on what pressure you put on the marker. So if I push down pretty hard on this color pencil, I get a darker shade. I'll show you on the sticky note here. So if I push down really hard, I can get a dark shade. If I go a little lighter, I can get a different shade, all using the same material. So you don't necessarily need to find a material that's the perfect match. It's how you use that material and the pressure that you put on that pencil or crayon. You can get a lot of different shades just with one material. So when you start the face and neck, I'm holding my pencil farther back. I suggest just starting softly and going over the entire face and neck. Notice I didn't even skip over the eyes. So I'm going over everything with a really just light shade with the pencil. You can barely see it. And then you're gonna build up from there. I'll speed up the video here so you can watch. So after we're done with our self-portrait, we are going to redraw it on a larger piece of paper, and we're going to be using positive words to describe ourselves, and we're going to write these words in the background. And that is for another video. Thanks for watching, and remember there are a million ways to do anything. So for your self-portrait, if you have another idea or another way that you want to do it, go for it. Here you can see I'm starting to draw the words in the background, but I'm going to speed up the video so you can get started on your self-portrait. And that's the end. Okay, thanks. Bye.